The winners of the Fake News Awards have been announced. Are they deserving? Let's check the facts. So Trump announced the winners of the Fake News Awards, and he did it in a very Trumpian fashion. He tweeted out a link to the GOP, and so many people went to the website, there was a 404 error. Great planning. Anyway, let's go over the 10 winners in the Fake News Awards, one by one, and I'll give you my opinion on whether or not they're deserving. Number 1, the New York Times' Paul Krugman claimed on the day of President Trump's historic landslide victory that the economy would never recover. Now, why Trump thought this was fake news, I don't know. This is an opinion piece, and as far as I'm concerned, opinion is not news. News is not opinion. So I'm going to give this one a pass. A few days later, he corrected himself or updated his thoughts and said, there's a temptation to predict immediate economic or foreign policy collapse. I gave into that temptation Tuesday night, but quickly realized I was making the same mistake as the opponents of Brexit. So he updated his thoughts. This was an opinion piece. No big deal. I give it a pass. Number 2, ABC News' Brian Ross chokes and sends market into a downward spiral with false report. Now, this is a case of Brian Ross being overzealous in his reporting and not doing any checks at all with anyone. He reported that Trump told Michael Flynn to meet with the Russians before the election, and it turned out that that was after the election. Does ABC News have fact checkers? Doesn't look like they do. Anyway, he was suspended for 4 weeks. He apologized. This was just poor reporting. Is it fake news? Probably. And it is an example that poor reporting does have real-world consequences. Number 3, CNN falsely reported that candidate Donald Trump and his son, Donald J. Trump Jr., had access to hacked documents from WikiLeaks. Now, this is just terrible reporting by CNN. Their timeline was off by 10 days. I get it. They didn't see the one. But does anyone check the facts, right? Apparently they don't when they're so excited to report something negative about the president. Basically, what this story should be is some guy sent the president an email. Big deal. But that's the thing that I don't like about CNN. They did update the story online, but they really didn't do a good job of fully explaining how much they screwed up. Right now, today, on their website, there's still the story that says email pointed Trump campaign to WikiLeaks documents. Yeah, some guy sent an email to Trump and said, hey, did you check out WikiLeaks? That's all it was. The media would call this a nothing burger. God, I hate that term. I mean, sure, they put a correction at the top of the story, but I don't think it's enough. Number 4, Time falsely reported that President Trump removed a bust of Martin Luther King Jr. from the Oval Office. Oh, so the Time reporter, Zeke Miller, tweeted out that the MLK bust had been removed from the White House. Now, when this happened, he was in the Oval Office, and there were a lot of people there, and he just didn't see it. He didn't even check with anybody. He didn't go up to one of the Secret Service guys and say, "Hey, what happened to the bust of MLK?" And they're like, "Oh, it's right there behind Brenda." Right? Didn't even do that, but he tweeted it out. And if he just tweeted it, big deal, right? But he put it in an article in Time magazine, right? Time.com. And I understand the implication, right? This racist president removed civil rights leader MLK's bust from the White House. What a racist, right? I mean, that's the implication. And it was totally not true. He just didn't see it because there were too many people in the room. Is this fake news? Totally fake news. Now, he did apologize and they updated things on the website, but this really exposed him for what he thought of the president and what his agenda is. Number 5, Washington Post falsely reported the president's massive sold-out rally in Pensacola, Florida was empty. Dishonest reporter showed picture of empty arena hours before crowds started pouring in. Well, I kind of have a little issue here because So Dave Weigel of the Washington Post, sure, he did tweet out a picture of an empty arena. And, he was trolling. But the Washington Post never reported this. So for him to say that the Washington Post falsely reported it, it's kind of fake news as well. But he tweeted it out. He deleted it 20 minutes later. We can see that he has an agenda, but I really wouldn't call this fake news. Just a reporter being a jerk. Number 6, CNN falsely edited a video to make it appear President Trump defiantly overfed fish during a visit to the Japanese Prime Minister. Japanese Prime Minister actually led the way with the feeding. You've probably seen this clip online. You've seen the GIF. Now, this is 100% deceptive editing. When you see the clip in its entirety, it's very clear that Abe dumped the food in first. Trump followed suit. They both smiled and walked off. This is 100% fake news, total agenda. But this was terrible by CNN because it spread so quickly and no one sees the retraction. I know people to this day that will say, oh yeah, I saw Trump feeding the goldfish and just dumping it all in. What a jerk, right? And they don't even know the whole story. So CNN did a great job in spreading this fake news. I believe this award was well-deserved. Number 7, CNN falsely reported that Anthony Scaramucci's meeting with a Russian, but retracted it due to significant breakdown in process. This was just a big screw-up. This was poor reporting. Within a couple days, CNN fired a bunch of people for this. Fake news. Another award, CNN. Number 8. Newsweek falsely reported that Polish First Lady Agata Kornhauser-Duda did not shake President Trump's hand. This is an egregious example of terrible video editing. And you've seen the memes online. In it, President Trump reaches his hand out. She reaches over, shakes Melania's hand, and then shakes Trump's hand. No big deal, right? But when it's edited, like Newsweek did, it makes it look like the president was, totally dunked on, right? So what did Newsweek do? A couple hours later, they uploaded the whole video and tweaked the headline a little bit. But this was totally malicious on Newsweek's part. Number 9. CNN falsely reported that former FBI Director James Comey would dispute President Trump's claim that he was told he is not under investigation. Again, CNN, pretty bad reporting. We have 4 different reporters on this. Gloria Borger, Jake Tapper, right? All of them put their name to this story, yet it's totally wrong. Were there any consequences? No, they updated the headline and made a little correction on their piece online. Big deal. Again, this is bad. This is bad reporting, fake news. And number 10, the New York Times falsely claimed on the front page that the Trump administration had hidden the climate report. Well, this was terrible reporting by the New York Times. It was totally untrue. A correction 2 days later after the story published said, while it was not widely publicized, the report was uploaded by the nonprofit Internet Archive in January. It was not first made public by the New York Times. Well, that was their correction. The Washington Post did an article on it in March, which easily could have been Googled, but maybe the New York Times doesn't want to mention the Washington Post. I don't know. The correction, not a great correction. Fake news again. They were 100% wrong in this case. And lastly, Trump talked about the Russia collusion story, and he says it's totally fake news. He didn't name any particular person or organization. He just said, this is just the biggest, fakest story that there is. And there really is no evidence that's been produced that shows that it's true. But the media keeps going with it. Again, you can't prove a negative, so I guess we'll just have to see. But I do know that there's a lot more evidence that the Clintons have ties to Russia than Trump. I mean, Bill Clinton was paid $500,000 by a Kremlin-backed bank. But, whatever. That doesn't matter. Forget about that. Whatever. Trump colluded. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Here's some of the things that disappointed me about this. This really could have been a big affair. It could have been on video. They could have had it live streaming. They could have called in some Hollywood celebrities, conservatives. Kid Rock could have announced an award. I don't know, Tim Allen could have come in and announced an award, other conservatives. That would have been fun to make it a real big event. Just putting it on a website is a little bit of a letdown. And this really wasn't just fake news in general. This was fake news about Trump. Every single article had to do with him, but maybe that's all he sees, right? Anything that doesn't have to do with him is out of his world. Newsbud did a story about NBC and their coverage of the Turkey coup attempt, where they were reporting that Erdogan had fled the country to Germany. And that had real-world consequences. It wasn't just, some koi fish being overfed. And that was real fake news. And I would have liked to have seen something like that being presented and getting more coverage. So overall, my opinion of these 10 fake news stories, well, one of them was just a bad tweet. I forgive that one. One was an opinion piece, not a big deal. Many of the other stories were just bad reporting, but some of them were very malicious. I am glad that there is some attention being drawn to just terrible reporting. So what did you think of the Fake News Awards? Were there any of these stories that you had a different opinion about? Let me know in the comments. Peace. Thanks for watching the video. You can help me reach my goal of 100 subscribers by subscribing and hitting that like button. Thanks. Peace.